Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the last meeting of the year. How about that? 2023.
Happy holidays.
I want to wish everybody a happy holiday and an joyful Christmas, holiday season, whatever way you choose to, designate the holiday and share it. But please take time, share it with your family, share it with your friends, meet with people, and just have a wonderful time. All right. Okay. So we have a lot to cover this evening. We're going to get right into business. Welcome to our December 12th meeting, and I'd like to lead off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So the first thing on our agenda tonight was a public hearing, and the public hearing is on a resolution to amend Chapter 109 Vehicle Traffic Code as introduced by the Village Board of Trustees back on November 14th for a public hearing to be held this evening for the placement of a stop sign going north at the intersection of South Barclay Street and South Street. Okay? So I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing and public comment section.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. You have doubt on your face.
Sorry, I thought given what happened today.
We still have to go through this process.
Okay, great.
We advertise it, yep,
Okay.
and we'll get to that part.
Aye.
Be patient. Okay, so I think what's important is there's been a lot happening in the last 48 hours, I would say. But to get everybody up to speed, we had authorized a traffic study on that intersection by Ty and Bond, and Brandy is here. So Brandy, I think you'd be behooved to bring everybody up to speed on what that report came up with. Okay?
Okay, go up to the podium.
Please.
I don't know if the
Is that
microphone's
on?
Is it on? Can
You made it with a switch on.
It sounds like it's on.
Is that any better?
No.
I'll be loud. How about that? Can you hear me okay?
Shut up.
Yeah, okay, great. So good evening, everyone. I'm Brandy Nelson. I'm village engineer here on behalf of Ty and Bond. And as the mayor said, back in November, the village asked us to take a look at the operational conditions at the intersection of South Street and South Parsonage Street, and to evaluate it for its current signage configuration and determine if it warrants a change in the stop controlled condition of that street, of that intersection. And so when we conduct those kinds of analyses, we aren't just doing it based on sort of our feeling of whether or not we like how that intersection functions. We follow the Federal Highway Administration's guidelines and also the procedures that are outlined in the federal guidance, which is called the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And what that document does across the country is establishes threshold conditions for certain signage placement and intersection controls. And that's so that when you're driving in Rhinebeck, you can have the same expectation as a driver in any other part of the country. And when you're a pedestrian in Rhinebeck, you can have the same expectations as being a pedestrian in any other part of the country. Okay, so there were a number of different conditions that we evaluated, and I will kind of hit the high points here, and then if anyone has questions, we can come back and we can kind of dig into it. So we do what's called an existing conditions assessment. The first thing is we evaluate the site conditions. We make a site visit to the intersection, and we take a look at how is it configured, what is the relationship of the roadway configuration to the pedestrian sidewalks, is there pedestrian sidewalks, what is the relationship of the roadway to structures such as houses, fences, utility poles, what is the configuration of the stop signs, what kind of condition are the stop signs in, what's the condition of the lighting. So we're taking a look at all the physical characteristics of that intersection. And then you may have seen that we had fixed some equipment out there in mid-November, and that equipment was collecting data on the movement of pedestrians and vehicles through that intersection. And so with that data collection, we were looking at the volume of traffic over a 12-hour period from 7 in the morning until 7 p.m. And we did that on Tuesday, November 14th. And our goal during a weekday was really recognizing that the operational concern that we have most acutely here in the village for that intersection has to do with the volume of regular traffic and then the volume of school traffic on top of that, as well as the pedestrian movements of school children going from their homes to school and then back home again in the afternoon. So that's why we picked a Tuesday. We wanted a midweek day. And that data collection resulted in a determination that the peak usage through that intersection, and this will come as no surprise to any of you, the morning peak is 7:15 to 8:15 a.m. and the afternoon peak is 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. And there were peaks both in vehicular traffic and in pedestrian traffic coinciding during those time periods. Okay. We also collected data on how many trips passed through that intersection over that course of that same study period, which, if you're interested, is 3,050. So it's a fairly good sized number over the whole 12-hour period. And we also collected data on the 85th percentile traveled speed. So the portion of South Parsonage Street south of South Street has a posted speed of 25 miles per hour. The actual 85th percentile, so 85% of the people traveling on that street are actually traveling at 29 miles per hour. And that's a little fast, but when you see how people actually drive in relationship to the speed limit, that's kind of within an area that we would find as reasonable. In addition, we looked at what's called intersection capacity. If you've been to any kind of seeker hearing before and you've heard about intersection capacity, you'll know that intersections are evaluated on an A through F rating, so just like grades. And an A, B, or C is considered a good operating intersection with limited amount of delays. So as you approach that intersection, there's only a limited amount of time that you would be stopped there before you're able to pass through that intersection. And so we found that the intersection operated in the A and B range. So that's a good thing in terms of capacity. Then, in addition, we looked at collision history based on reported collisions with the Village of Rhinebeck Police Department for the period of November 2018 through October 2023. And the reason we look over that large span is that we actually had found data just in general in the United States that collisions actually upticked during the pandemic, believe it or not, even though it seemed like volumes of traffic were down. So we want to look for a time period both before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and after the pandemic, just to see if there's any change in collision history. And what we found from that collision data is that there have been a total of 6 collisions. All were considered what are called angle collisions, where 2 vehicles, one going in one direction, one going in another direction, collide with one another. And it worked out to an average of 1 reported angle collision per 12-month period for the most recent 5 years. Okay. We also looked into the accident data, and we did not find that any of the incidents reported involving pedestrians or cyclists. And there were no fatalities or serious injuries. There were only minor property damage and minor injuries. So in addition to the preceding items, we looked at sight distances at the intersection. The sight distance is the distance that you as a driver can see when you're looking for oncoming traffic if you're going to be pulling through an intersection or making a turn into an intersection. And what we found in general is that if you are on South Street going eastbound or westbound, that your sight distance looking north up Parsonage Street is limited below the recommended distance because of the either the proximity of structures or the proximity of utility poles. We found that if you are going north and southbound on Parsonage Street, you do not have those same limitations. So, with all of those pieces of data that are collected to characterize the operating and geometric conditions at the intersection, the MUTCD has you review for 4 primary conditions. And if you have any of those primary conditions at your intersection, then you should put in an all-way stop. So that would be a 4-way stop. It's a little bit wonky to get into those primary conditions, but I will mention them. And if anyone has questions and wants me to go back to it, I can. The first one is condition A, interim measures for traffic control system. This has to do with, this is a little bit on the wonky side. This has to do with a broader range of MUTC guidance on the geometry of the roadway. Sometimes it just calls for a 4-way stop, and we did not meet those other outside characteristics for the intersection to call for an all-way stop. Condition B is when you have 5 or more traffic collisions within a 12-month period, and we only had 1, so we didn't meet that condition. Condition C is if you meet minimum volumes per the MUTCD through the intersection, and we didn't meet the minimum volumes because we have a fairly low volume as it relates to what MUTCD considers a high-use intersection. And then there's a condition D if you meet 80% of the minimum volume, and we didn't meet that condition either. However, MUTCD does give communities what are called additional considerations or secondary conditions, and those are conditions where you use both a review of whether or not the condition is present, but also engineering judgment as to whether or not a multi-way stop control would be warranted. And there are 4 secondary conditions, and they are the need to control left turning conflict, the need to control vehicle pedestrian conflict near locations that generate high pedestrian volumes, the location where a road user after stopping cannot see conflicting traffic and is not able to reasonably or safely negotiate the intersection unless conflicting cross traffic is also required to stop. And the 4th one is an intersection of 2 residential neighborhood collector streets of similar design and operating characteristics would improve traffic operational characteristics at the intersection. So our traffic engineers, after reviewing the existing conditions data, concluded that the South Street and South Parsonage intersection meets these secondary conditions B, C, and D. And therefore they would recommend installing a 4-way multi-way stop for all 4 legs of that intersection. In conversation then with the village, I believe it was the mayor had a conversation with DOT about whether or not DOT would be supportive of the 4-way stop at that location. Their concern is whether or not there's a 4-way stop that would cause any kind of traffic to back up onto 308 and East Market Street. We were actually not able to get a hold of DOT until just today, so there's nothing in our report that's posted on the village's webpage about our DOT conversation, but in talking with them today, from the data that we collected on the intersection, we were able to identify how deep vehicles would stack on the North Parsonage section, and they would not extend into East Market Street. And so in sharing that information with DOT, they said that they would be supportive of an all-way stop. I'm going to ad-lib just for a minute now. So that's the all-way stop. So we would recommend an all-way stop at that location so that both the north-south vehicles and the east-west vehicles everybody's coming to a stop, and everybody knows everybody else is coming to a stop. That is a very conventional form of intersection that drivers are familiar with, and so it's an easy change in traffic operation for a community to understand. We did have a conversation about possibly just installing a single stop sign on the northbound approach. I know tonight's public hearing is specifically about that, but we would encourage the village to move to considering the four-way stop, given that DOT has some information now about queue length, just so that you're creating a more regular operating environment at that intersection. Sorry, that's a lot.
Oh, not bad.
No, that's great.
Good summary. So now I will open up the questions to the board first. Any questions from the board?
So Brandon, the recommendation is that in order to create an intersection that is like the intersections across the country, a four-way intersection is really what people expect, and that would actually be the safest configuration of intersections rather than the three-way.
Yes, and because it's a more consistent form of intersection, there are not generally instances where you would have a three-way stop and allow one flow of traffic to operate without stopping. Creates a little bit of uncertainty for those who are stopped to know if the southbound leg of traffic would be stopping, and that uncertainty then can create a potential safety issue. Also, MUTCD doesn't have a warrant that we can go through that really gives you sort of a data-driven determination on how to reconfigure the intersection, whereas the all-way stop does.
And just to be clear, prior to today's conversations, DOT said no way to a four-way, right?
Wow.
So they were adamantly against it, in many conversations, but now, given we've done a traffic study and they accepted their data versus telling us before that we had to do a full traffic study that would have cost several $1,000s more, all that other kind of stuff, they've now accepted Time Bond's data and have said the queuing data, which means that the backup portion of that is acceptable, with the caveat that it doesn't back up onto 308.
Does the queuing data really look at those peak times and the impact of school buses?
Yes, it does. We actually went back, after talking with the mayor, we went back just to double check that we hadn't underestimated the queue length, because it talks about vehicle queuing, and we wanted to make sure that we were allowing for the length of a school bus, not just the length of a passenger vehicle. And so we made some assumptions, assuming it'd be multiple buses, not just vehicles, when in reality it's probably a mix, but we took the conservative approach there.
But the queuing data said two.
Two vehicles
Two
typically
vehicles
queue.
is what the queue length should be, given that intersection and the timing associated with stop signs, okay?
Right.
So two
It's not a lot.
doesn't back up onto 308.
Right. Three.
Three does.
So basically the bottom line is, now that DOT has ostensibly given their blessing in the last 43 seconds, you would recommend that we wouldn't go ahead and do a three-way stop, but instead wait until we could do a full four-way stop, because three-way stops are super confusing, and now we have permission to do a four-way stop, so we should actually go with that approach.
In general, we would recommend that you make a change once,
Right.
right? And so not to take an interim step, but wait until you can make the total change that you want to deploy there, just again, so that users of the intersection have that consistency and reliability.
Yep, that makes sense.
So what that means, if we decide, and we'll take input as well, is that the public hearing for the three-way stop becomes null and void. Right? And we will set a new public hearing date.
For a
We
four-way
have to,
stop.
because of vehicle traffic law
Right.
for the Village of Rhinebeck, we have to set a new public hearing date to make it a four-way stop.
Right.
Clear?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Questions?
This is great news. Thank you, Dave. Thank you,
Yes.
Randy.
Yeah.
Any questions? Yes.
First of all, thank you, that was a really.
Could you just stand up, announce your name?
I'm sorry.
your address?
injured.
Can't stand up.
Oh,
I can't.
oh, I'm sorry, I can't.
I really appreciated that presentation. Specifically, I want to ask about, I think you presented some information regarding delays that a vehicle would have at the intersection. What about the pedestrians?
That's a good question. I don't have any data like that reported here, and I will go back and I'll find out, and I'll have to get back to you on that. But
Yeah, my only fear is a kid who's getting antsy, I'm late for school, or I just am bored with waiting here, is going to dash across the street when it's not safe.
Right. No, that's a fair thing. We do have.
We have volume data though.
Some-
We have volume data of the students that are crossing there. Like for instance,
It was
if
a
you.
lot, actually. I was surprised.
What?
I was surprised how
Yeah,
many kids crossed.
It depends on your definition, right?
Right.
But if you look at, the volume data is on each crosswalk, whether you're on North Parsonage, South Parsonage, or South Street, East or West, right? And the volume data is included in our report that is up on the cloud. Apologize for the lateness because we just got it this afternoon. But the peak time, the absolute peak time for pedestrian traffic was on the east side of South Street, okay? From, in the afternoon, after 12, in the afternoon, and the number was 19. So 19 pedestrians. Prior to that, you know, it was 2, 3, 7, 1, 1, 19.
That's
Okay.
19 within a 1 hour increment, correct?
I don't know, was
Yeah,
it 1
it's
hour?
the
Is it,
peak
is
hour.
that 1 hour?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, the other sides are significantly less than that during the pedestrian volume data that they took. So, that's the number.
Kids walking up from Lions Mini Park up to the southeast corner and then
Correct.
crossing
And
there.
they're
and
crossing.
then-
They're coming into the village from school.
Right.
Think of it that way, and they're all on the southeast side. Not all, but the majority.
There's no sidewalk there, but they're walking with.
And no, we were surprised too. I thought that they would cross at the park or cross at the school crosswalk, and
They
yeah,
don't.
they don't.
I do.
But that's something, you know, that's why collecting the actual data is useful, so that you can actually see where people are using the space.
Roger.
Thank you. Thank you for putting this
Your
report.
name, please. So
My name?
Yeah, I know, but just so it's on the record.
Roger
Can we
Kwan.
back up, because I need her name?
What was your name, please?
My name is Kathy Podmanitsky,
Oh, God.
spelled just like a sentence.
Thank you.
Thanks.
good.
Roger Kwan, QUON, Village. And thanks for putting together the study. I did have a question on the numbers. I'm wondering, are they perhaps conservative? And when you mentioned the number of accidents at the intersection, you mentioned that there's only one, but on my count, there were at least two, not say two vehicles, but one pedestrian in a vehicle and then two vehicles.
Yeah.
So how do you account for that? And then maybe just a second one, counting the number of walkers at this time of season might be low. In the warmer months, would we expect it to be higher?
Sure. Yeah, I think to your last question first, this is a valid point. You know, I think we had a conversation in October, and it takes, you know, we were trying to get it done as soon as possible, understanding based on information from both the school and from the police department that as the weather gets cooler, the number of pedestrians decreases. So this is really the earliest we could get the traffic counting equipment out on the site. So you make a good point, there may be a higher volume in September. I don't think it changes the conclusions at all. You know, we want to do what we can to minimize any kind of conflict between pedestrians and vehicles. And then your earlier question was about traffic accident data.
Are we counting?
Yeah, so the accident data is, we only have access to what has been reported to the police department. So if there was another incident where there was some sort of collision and it wasn't reported to the police department, unfortunately we don't have that data. So we can only go on what is reported, and that's why I had qualified it that way.
And it's specifically to the intersection.
Correct.
So if there's something that's not at the intersection, it doesn't count.
Like, for example, I think one of the accidents actually happened at the intersection of Parsonage and East Market. So that wouldn't have counted this intersection, even though they're kind of related.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's
the
safe,
flow
it's-
is really strange.
I think it's safe to say there's a lot of near misses at that intersection, because I've been involved in a number of them, and you know, you can't, none of them my fault, by the way, but, so that's definitely true.
just want to piggyback some coming up. We're going to talk about quickly about a survey that was done in the village about safe routes to school and people walking. And we had these are self-reported numbers, but in the morning we had reported from this survey 94 kids either walking to the middle school, the high school, or elementary school, and then 130 exiting the schools, either Chancellor or the middle school and the high school. And I think as we have this discussion, that's one of the things that's important, is that there are actually a lot of kids who, they may come in the morning by vehicular means, but they go into the village in the afternoon. So we should be aware that that's an important part of our traffic flow. So just some other numbers.
Chris?
Chris Hall, I live on South Parsonage. I have two questions, and actually I wanted to acknowledge Roger's question about the weather, because when I saw the traffic count equipment out there, I thought, oh, we would definitely have better data, or perhaps more valid data if we were surveying in September, October, or later in the school year. So I don't know if those numbers would adjust your conclusion, but the conclusion is really terrific. We weren't expecting a four-way intersection, so this is news to our community. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for your work.
News to all of us within the last
49
seconds.
seconds, yeah. So that's just curious to me. Would we have different data if we were studying, and I don't know what the weather was on November 9th or 14th, but again, more favorable climate and more children and adults walking along those peak times. So just to keep that in mind. The second question or comment I have is, when the four-way stop signs are installed, will we still have the blinking light to help train the drivers and pedestrians so that we're thinking about looking up and looking straight ahead to understand a stop sign, but also a blinking light device?
So that's a good question on the blinking lights. So that blinking light was installed, I was born, 1954, okay? That's how long that blinking light has been there. It was actually put there because of school traffic back in that time. How can I say this? It's like me, it's old. I don't know what else to say. It's not LED. There's tape on one of the lenses that are covering it there. So to modify that blinking light really is going to be a change to that light in some fashion. And that's what I'm going to work with our engineering team on, to say, what do we really need to if we do this? And that'll be part of the next public hearing, to say, how do we address then the traffic conditions? But excellent question. I don't know, I kind of like old things.
Yeah. I know, it's time to retire.
But we can't even change the lenses and all that. I mean, so you're right.
Absolutely.
So we can't-
So we
we
need
can't
signage, and we'll need to do all of the right things. But can we hold that discussion until we get to the next part?
Thank you.
Can I just actually follow up on that question around if there were more kids walking through this intersection on a nicer, warmer day, would that, it seems like a four-way stop is sort of the safest way that we can make that intersection right now, short of a four-way traffic light, correct?
So a traffic light is like another level up from a four-way stop, and
Right.
you would go through the same process of determining whether or not that intersection warrants a traffic light.
Okay.
So what we did was the analysis to see if the intersection warrants a four-way stop.
Right, and it sort of like barely warrants a four-way stop. We kind of shoehorned it in using the additional conditions, but so I'm just wondering, like, given the idea that there are more kids that are going through that intersection probably on nicer days, is sort of like a four-way stop the best that we can do at the moment?
Well, so we do have some other recommendations for improving the pedestrian experience there, and I think that
Okay.
is to the mayor's point about, what is our next step and what does that look like?
Okay.
An example might be to actually stripe some crosswalks there to make it really clear to both the pedestrians and to the drivers that, this is a shared space where we're gonna have pedestrians, and we want to give them, primacy and the most safety, especially recognizing that they're young people that are easily, distracted out there with their friends. And so that'll be what we'll get into in the next phase of this, is just how to do that and what can the village do in the interim.
Right.
And then recognizing that you have a longer range plan for safe routes to schools, what can we do that sort of moves us in the same direction? We don't want to change things up too much, but we want to do what we can to enhance the experience in the interim period.
Great, okay, thank you.
Yes, Isabel.
I would like to add something to that. My name is Isabel Schulte, and I live on East Market, close to the Good Shepherd Church. I can unequivocally say that the traffic of school children is substantially higher coming at noon. There are very few who walk to school. There are some. And the next are those who walk home after school. There's a lot of traffic at noontime. And also the age difference varies with whether it's pleasant or not. You'll get a lot more high school age students in good weather, and in general, it's a great difference. In bad weather, and I'm out front in my yard a considerable amount of the time, and I enjoy listening to their conversations. I could write a dissertation on boys and girls and all that. But it's definitely the middle of the day,
Yeah.
and definitely good weather. And I would wonder, when the Buckley School was there, we had crossing guards, volunteers. And I
That's
wonder,
another program
that's another
that we're working
program.
on, so good point.
But I
Yeah.
could say
Right.
that traffic
Right.
varies greatly.
And you're right, it depends on what's happening at the school.
Right,
They may have, because I've seen days when the village is packed with kids,
right.
just packed with kids coming out of the school.
Yes.
Right? And days when there's
Early
none.
dismissal.
Yeah, and then, so just so everybody knows, the school is migrating towards what is called an open campus. So there's gonna be a lot more freedom and flexibility of kids going back and forth, because that's the direction which they're headed right now. To create that, get them ready for college, okay? Is kind of the message. Yes, Chris?
I just had one other quick comment. It's not related to the four-way stop, but it is related to an engineering study, and that is that we do have different postings of variable speed limits throughout the village. 25 and 30 on adjacent streets, on crossing streets. On quieter streets, it's 30, but on busier streets, it's 25. So I don't know in terms of DMV, DOT protocol.
So I'm gonna let Rick answer that question.
So it's just an observation. I know it's not
Sure,
part of this.
No, it's a great question. So the situation was villages are 30, and then they had the ability to cut a road to 25 if you did a special study and such like that. That was the old law. Then last year, New York State said, you know what? We will let villages pass a area-wide 25-mile-an-hour speed to apply to the whole area. Fantastic, right? What they didn't do was put together any procedure for how to get that accomplished. And so right now, I was just like 3 weeks ago, a little more, a month ago, talking to NICOM, which is New York Conference of Mayors, which is like our lobbying group. And they've been lobbying DOT to put together a set of standards so that villages know what to do so that we can have an area speed limit. And that is definitely something that we'd like to do, but we don't want to have to go through all the individual street or engineering. We'd like to be able to do it just as a nice big area. So we're kind of primed for that, but we're kind of hung up at the state level.
But to follow up on that question, so South Parsonage between Knollwood and North Park is 25, and I think it's because that was like the
School zone.
school
It was
It was designated school zone.
So I assumed that South Parsonage between North Park and South was also 25, but is it not?
Don't think it is. I think it's 30 otherwise.
I assume so as well.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna take one more question, then we're gonna move on. Roger?
So maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but in 2011, there was a sidewalk study, and in 2014, the county had a pathway study, and it cited a number of intersections in Rhinebeck that were high traffic or high risk. Is that data still valid, and what are the other intersections that may need further examination?
Good question. Tonight, we're focusing on this one.
Okay.
All right, because we could talk about multiple intersections here in the village of Rhinebeck, and when we talk about other programs that we're trying to do and the Safe Route to School, that all is coming up in terms of trying to address what is feasible to do today and what is feasible in the future. And the comp plan is addressing sidewalks and streetscapes and all that as well, which I'm sure you're aware of.
I know you said one more question, but
No,
what is the timeline for this, for the implementation of the four-way?
I'm sorry, Chris.
Timeline for the implementation of the four-way?
So the next thing we have to do is tonight was very specific, as I mentioned. It was for a particular stop sign going north. I'm going to soon make a motion here to say that we're not going to do that, and I'm going to propose for another public hearing for doing the next one. So we have to set a public hearing date, and that's up to the board to set. So again, by vehicle traffic law, according to the village, we need to set a public hearing to do that, and so we'll need to set the date.
Basically, as soon as possible, but it just takes some regulatory hurdles to have as soon as possible be as soon as possible.
So like, maybe next month for the public hearing, how's that?
That's right. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm sorry, I do have a question. I'm Jane Argentini. I'm also a resident on South Parsons Street. So after you are able to schedule this next hearing, and if, everyone agrees that, yes, we should do the four-way stop sign, then how long does it take to implement it?
Good question. I mean, I don't know again, we talked about what are the recommendations that we need that engineering is going to tell us, and I don't have them.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, to put up a stop sign,
24 hours.
yes, not to me, that's not a big hurdle. But if there's other recommendations that engineering is proposing, which I don't know, so. And then we got to do public awareness, and we got to do some education, and we got to do warning signs and all this other kind of stuff, because I don't want to have an accident because we changed it in the middle of the night, and the next morning people will now have a four-way stop that they weren't expecting.
Makes sense?
So I think there's a lot of thinking that's going to have to go into it. A good question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that to close the public hearing and close the public comment section for this
Second.
thing.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now I'm going to make another motion to have another resolution and another public hearing for the four-way stop at the intersection of South and Parsonage Street. And I would like to propose that be held at our next monthly meeting.
Second.
Second.
Discussion?
So that's on January 9th.
Yep.
Okay. At 6 p.m.?
Yeah. I have one question, and that's just to ask Brandy, is there anything that you need between now and then that would change that time frame?
I don't think so.
Great.
Great. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you all. But if you please welcome and stay, don't leave now. We have a lot more good stuff to cover. Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. Is anybody here for public comment? Going once? Going twice?
Sold.
Gone. Okay, thank you. All right, Vanessa, you're up. Thank you, Brandy.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you for your work today.
You all right?
Detecting?
Can you guys see it over there too?
I can.
Yeah.
We'll see if it actually recognizes the device.
Sometimes when I just turn off the TV, that turns back on again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When all else fails.
That's the scientific
Yeah.
approach.
Right, Brenda?
And then just wait for this stuff to.
Wait for that to disappear, yeah.
Oh, no, oh, explore.
You didn't wait for it to disappear.
No, I didn't touch anything.
Oh, right. Oh.
That's what I say all the time, too.
Sorry.
It happens.
I'm sorry, it's an Apple device, I'm not getting involved.
It's the Samsung side.
My fingers.
That it?
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, good.
Thanks very much. Good night.
Remote source button connection gap. Good, I got a connection
Oh,
gap.
come on.
You had it.
Oh, so close. Hit cancel.
Everybody wants to drive.
I know, but this usually helps.
Yay! Good job.
Success. All right.
Time's up.
I'll try to be fast. So I think a lot of folks know we've been working along with 8 other municipalities across Dutchess County as a cohort to investigate our government operations and the greenhouse gas emissions associated with our government operations. This is called the Climate Action Planning Institute, this project, which is brought to us by Dutchess County, by the Hudson Valley Regional Council, and by ICLEI, which is a group that works with municipalities across the world, helping them with these sorts of projects. So we looked at all of our energy usage for the year 2019. Why 2019? We were looking for a pre-COVID year, and we were looking for a pre-Hudson, Central Hudson billing fiasco year. So that's why 2019. So I'm going to start with the inventory, which is basically we went through all of our bills and we looked at our energy usage. So this is the breakdown of by sector of the, again, it's just government operations for the village. We're not looking at the community-wide usage at this point. So the biggest contributor is our water and wastewater treatment plant for those facilities. That's in purple. In yellow, it's buildings and facilities, so really heating, cooling, electricity for buildings. And then in orange, we have vehicle fleet, so gasoline and diesel vehicles. And then the green is employee commute. The other little grab bag there, I'm not going to really get into to keep this presentation short. Okay, so let's dig into a little bit of what we're looking at for water and wastewater treatment plants. This is 34% of our greenhouse gas emissions. You can see that the top contributor here, that big blue bar, is the basically the emissions associated with the biological process of handling sewage. So there's not that much we can do about that at this point. And then the second and third contributors is sort of a tie between the electricity for the water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant, with 49 metric tons of CO2e each. So CO2e, by the way, stands for carbon dioxide equivalent. So as a standard method that we're using globally for accounting, the accounting of greenhouse gases, is to roll them all up into what is basically a standard metric that we can all use. And that is carbon dioxide equivalent, meaning we're looking at methane, and how much that contributes to greenhouse gas and climate change and other chemicals in addition to just carbon dioxide. Okay, and then buildings and facilities. I want to point out Village Hall here as the winner for the top contribution to greenhouse gas emissions with 72 metric tons. That is from the heating oil for this building that we're all sitting in, Village Hall / firehouse. And then the second is the water treatment plant's heating oil with 44 metric tons. Vehicle fleet, here we're talking about 21% of our emissions. The way that we track our fuel usage for vehicles is actually by fund. So we have our wastewater trucks, we have our water department trucks, and then we have our general fleet trucks. General being police, fire, as well as highway. So keep that in mind. We also pull out diesel versus gasoline. We basically, the village tracks all of the fuel usage because we buy it all from the town. So that's how we track that stuff. And then we have employee commute. This was an interesting challenge to try to figure this out. There's a lot of estimations as well as survey data from our employees that roll into this. So this is basically trying to calculate people's gasoline burned as they come to and from their place of work here at the village. Okay, so we take all that data and we put it into a pretty graph. Here's what we have. If we do nothing to try to draw down our emissions, this is our BAU, business as usual. You can see it's a gently little sloping curve down. That is because this tool takes into account the decarbonization of the electrical grid here in our area. So we're already getting we're already cruising downhill a little bit, but we still need to do a lot more because we have a goal of 40% reduction by 2030. That is what I'm putting to the board, is what should be our goal. And I'm going to tell you how we're going to do it. Why this goal? This is the same goal that was adopted by New York State under the CLCPA legislation. So that's the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which is really nation-leading climate change legislation from New York State. Go New York State. Okay, so that's what the green line is. The dotted green line here is our goal. The blue line is where we're at. The end of the graph is 2030. And then we're not even going to talk about this one. That's the 2050 goal. But that's for another day. So next what we did as a group is we discussed what can we do as a small village. What do we have control over here? What would be some smart financial choices to make in order to try to meet our goal, hopefully save some money. Hopefully there are other co-benefits that come out of these reduction strategies, such as less pollution, cleaner air, healthier work environment, etc. Okay, so there's where we are, there's where we need to be, and you can see how those color-coded sectors stack up. So what have we already done since 2019? Keep in mind, this is 2019, right? We already, thanks to Rick, we already switched over all of our streetlights to LED. Unfortunately, it's just a teeny tiny bite of our emissions, but you can see that's we've already done that, so we can tick that off the list, saving about 13 metric tons. And what do we already have planned? So we know we've been talking a lot about our planned upgrades to the water treatment plant and the process, the machinery that moves water through that building as it's purifying it. Upgrading those pumps and turbines is going to get us greater efficiencies. So what I did is I used just the guidance from the EPA that says these types of upgrades generally result in 15 to 30% greater efficiency in the electrical use of that processing. So that gets us that little right there. And then what's already going to organically happen, thinking about employee commute, we don't have a lot of control over employee commute. However, in the US, did you know about 5% of the population purchases a new car every year? And the prediction is that all new vehicles sold in New York State will be electric vehicles by 2030. So I am working with our facilitators. We kind of came up with some calculations there, and we implemented this kind of gradual slope down, figuring this sort of adoption rate will be happening with our staff. Okay, but what's really going to make a big impact towards our 2030 goal? And the question is, what are we going to prioritize? The number one reduction strategy I'm recommending is that we do adopt a CCA. That stands for Community Choice Aggregation with 100% renewables. So that's really thinking about the source of our electricity. What are we drawing from the grid? New York State is already moving in that direction, but how in essence can we get ahead of the game there? That would make a huge decrease in the purple sector. That is the electricity used for water and wastewater treatment. So think about all the electricity used to push water and wastewater around our system. And then as well as help out with the rest of the electricity used for the other buildings. So that's number one recommendation. And that's basically not just helping us in our municipal operations, but that would be helping all of you, our residents, because you would have the ability to get clean energy as well in your own homes. Number two reduction strategy, switch to heat pumps, electrify this building. This is also something we've been talking about and planning for. This would make a huge dent, right? This gets us almost there. So we've already been talking about this project here for the Village Hall and Firehouse, but this data is just backing up what we thought we needed to do. And then the third reduction strategy, to start transitioning our fleet to electric vehicles. We've already started working with a consultant who gave us some information on this project, but the feeling is there's not a lot of models out there right now, particularly for our needs where we would like to have pickup trucks that could do double duty in plowing driveways at the various departments. So all I'm saying here, what I've modeled is just a couple over the next, till 2030. If we even do just a couple, that also makes a dent in our emissions. And then we're hitting our goal, everybody. Yeah. We did it! So satisfying. So to recap, what we've already done, LED streetlights, greater efficiencies for the water treatment plant, that's what we already planned. What we can encourage, we can try to encourage more of an organic transition to electric vehicles for our commuters. And what we need to do, CCA for 100% renewables, switch to heat pumps for the Village Hall / Firehouse, and start switching to electric vehicles for our fleet. And then we can start thinking about 2050. So, thank you. Yeah.
The CCA, does that come at a cost, or is it just, yes, we'd love to do this, someone build solar fields?
Yep, so there's no cost to do the process besides like the legal process that you have to go through. It's basically a legislative process.
Oh, okay, okay, great.
And then the other thing to know about CCA is you're basically jumping into the market and you're trying to purchase 100% renewable energy at a good price.
Right.
That price fluctuates.
It does.
Maybe not as much as, the dirty grid, but it does fluctuate. So you try to enter the market when it's advantageous. What I would probably propose is that we pass the legislation and then kind of like lie in wait and pounce when the time is right. But those are the sorts of questions that I would need to dig into if this is something we really want to pursue.
Okay. And so then the only other thing is, the big, thank you, by the way, that was amazing, thank you. But the big thing here, in addition to the stuff that we already have planned, is this building, which we, as we know, it's not just switching it over to heat pumps, but it's actually insulating it and making it tight. And for a 1970s beautiful piece of architecture, that's more difficult than it sounds. You and I have been talking about various grants that are possible for that, but it's not free.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm just sort of thinking through, like, we have so many things that are costing so much money.
We have until 2030.
We have
I know we have until 2030, I know, but like sidewalks and comp plan and
Right.
building and.
I mean, let's put a number on it. It's $1 million to get this building upgraded. Just shy of $1 million.
Right,
That's what it's gonna cost.
Yeah.
right. And we're like shaving at that on the edges, but, you know, probably by next year it'll be 1.2 at this point. Okay, okay,
Right.
yeah, no, I know.
So a lot of this, you know, some of these are bigger ticket things that we need to
And super
carefully
important,
plan.
Yeah.
Karen, when are we gonna go for these things? Yeah.
right, and bonding and
Mhm.
making sure to smooth that, so, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Treasurer's report.
Okay, the treasurer's report is for the period ending November 30th. The general fund ended the month with $77,643.81. The water fund ended the month with $129,622.12. And the sewer fund ended the month with $197,936.56. Our New York class investments combined with the general water and sewer, we made a little over $9,000 for the month. The vouchers presented for payment in the general fund totaled $291,277.42. I would just like to add that we had the retirement payment in here, we had a workers' comp payment, that this was a very high month for the bills. Water fund, $69,570.31. Sewer fund, $52,757.93. We had a few escrow payments in the amount of $1,364.50. The water system improvement project had bills totaling $16,683. And the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project had bills totaling $24,654. And we paid a majority of the payment for the Center Street project of $281,703.50.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the amendments as proposed by treasurer.
Second.
Discussion?
Vouchers.
Okay,
Vouchers, excuse me.
and that was John.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the monthly operating statement is provided for the revenue and expenditures through December 12th. The mid-year, December marks mid-year for the village's fiscal year. I will be working with department heads on their budgets and prepare a 6-month report for the January meeting. The budget 24-25 season is coming up. In February and March, we will be scheduling meetings with the department heads for the highway, police, and court, the water and sewer, environmental, fire in general. And this year, I would really recommend an additional special meeting to discuss all grants and capital projects, current and proposed.
Second that.
I think we need to really just, everyone needs to come together and just kind of put on the table what we're doing now and what we plan to do, so.
Yeah.
And what the village's share is going to be out of all of this. So, the water and sewer, December monthly bills were sent out at $61,627.30 due by December 25th. Billing and adjustments as signed off by Mayor Bassett are on file and presented for approval.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the building adjustments as signed and approved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, January 2024 will be a quarterly billing as well as the monthly, so we got a big month ahead of us. I have one budget amendment for this evening, and it is just to decrease streetlights by 17,000 and increase the principal, or the principal by 13,900 and the interest by 3,100 for the New York Power Authority LED lights that we are going to be paying over 4 years.
Right. So I will make a motion to do that. And what's happening here is that this took a long time, but as things do, the village has installed LED streetlights, and we've purchased them. We own the street lighting system, and it's done with the cooperation of New York Power Authority. So basically, New York Power Authority has set up a program whereby they bulk purchase the lights, they help us with the installation, they helped us get the maintenance contract, and then they basically give us a loan to pay for the lights. So the idea of the loan is that we hold our overall expenditure steady until we pay off the loan, which will be 4 years and a month. So that we've been spending about $40,000 a year for our electric bill. So we're going to have to keep allocating about $40,000 a year, but instead now about 33 of that is going to pay off our hardware, and only 7 is going for the amount of electricity that we consumed. And so in about 4 years and a month, we will have paid off this system, and then we will be saving $35,000 a year.
Or more if electric.
Or more if electric's got, right. So that took, I think I started on that when I first got on the board. So with all the moving parts there, it's been about 6 years to get to this point where they actually sent us a bill.
Well, they haven't sent it yet.
They haven't even sent us a bill.
So I second his motion. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Thanks, Rick.
That's it, I'm good. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Karen. All right, resolutions. Again, there's some late-breaking news that I'd like to indulge the village board with and the public, because it just came in today. But as a matter of practice, what we normally do is we approve or vote on the new elected firehouse, firematic, EMS, and civil officers every year. So they got me their list today. I apologize that it was not on the agenda, but at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Rhinebeck Fire Department 2024 election results. And I'm going to read every one of them, because I think it's important for the dedication that they give to the village of Rhinebeck. So first is Fire Chief Brian Knapp, Fire Assistant Chief Peter Fraley, Fire First Captain Todd Leary, Fire Second Captain Sheldon Teeter, Fire First Lieutenant Thomas Bleichart, and then Fire Police First Lieutenant Doug Amy, and Fire Police Second Lieutenant Derek Slingman. EMS Captain Jeff Cotter, EMS First Lieutenant Erica Wheeler, EMS Second Lieutenant Ryan Ferber, and then our civil officers. The President Walt Cotter, Vice President Sonny Freeman, Treasurer John Imperato, Financial Secretary Leanne Pitcher, Director 1 Jim Rogers, and Director 2 Kyle Amy. I have a motion to accept these officers.
So moved.
Any discussion?
Second.
You moved it already. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
I'd like to again thank all of our fire department members, both fire and EMS, for the contribution that they so gallantly give of their own time to the village of Rhinebeck and the protected district in Rhinebeck in serving us and keeping us all safe. Back on schedule. Organizational recharge. Organizational restructure, okay? So from time to time, I'm going to read the resolution. This is an organizational chart update, which we post to give everybody. Whereas liaisons are appointed by me, the mayor, and whereas the purpose of a liaison is to work directly with the mayor on areas of concern for the village, and where liaison appointments may change depending on the village needs, and whereas the organizational chart will be updated to reflect those changes as needed. Now therefore be it resolved to the village board to accept the updated organizational chart on 12/12/20 23, and I'm going to read into the record the changes that we're making on the organizational chart. So just to put this in reference, typically liaisons follow departments. But the way we're structuring today, we have a superintendent of public works that works very well with all of our water, wastewater, and highway departments to handle that. We have a building and planning zone department head, right, Ken McLaughlin, who is really working to bring that organization and that department into alignment and moving us forward. And so with that, I'm changing the organizational structure in terms of what it is. So the building and planning zoning department head will now be Ken McLaughlin. Communications and technology liaison will be newly appointed John Penny. Our complete street liaison, Rick Lewitt. Environmental liaison remains as Vanessa Bertozzi. And a land use liaison, Lydia Slavy. So I'd like to make a motion to accept these changes to our organizational chart.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you all for your work and moving forward into moving us on really projects and programs that are important to us here in the village, and it's an alignment for giving my office a lot of support that is definitely needed going forward. So thank you. Thank you all. We have some friends in the audience. Next is the resolution for Archtop Fiber, which we started discussing back in August. And so this is a micro-trenching construction agreement, right? And this micro-trenching construction agreement is entered into by and between the Village of Rhinebeck, a municipal corporation located here, 76 East Market Street, and Archtop Fiber LLC, a New York limited company with offices located at 300 Enterprise Drive in Kingston. Village and Archtop are referred collectively here as the parties in this agreement. So I'm going to go through just a couple of these and bring out the important facts of where we're moving forward, and then we'll take some questions. So whereas Archtop seeks to provide high-speed broadband internet service to the village and ubiquitously to all residents and businesses in the village. And whereas Archtop and the village agree on the objectives of the project and desire to make available high-speed broadband services to all residents and businesses in the village in a timely manner. And whereas construction of Archtop's full fiber network has been substantially delayed by the inability to secure pole attachment permits from Central Hudson Gas and Electric in a timely manner. And whereas Archtop has perfected a micro-trenching construction application that through more costly than attaching fiber to utility pole can deploy fiber in the village in a more timely and less obstructive manner. And whereas the village code, section 125-4043, governs the trenching requirements for utilities in the village streets measuring approximately 60,000 feet. Archtop, however, is proposing to utilize micro-trenching for burying its fiber in certain village streets. And whereas Archtop is proposing to pay a fee that is based on a dramatically reduced impact to the village's right-of-way because of the micro-trenching, and most trenches for utility companies are dug at dimensions that are much larger, 36 by 48 inches, right? And Archtop's micro-trenching is 1 inch by 12 inch. So that's 144 times less than what is normal for trenching. So now therefore the value received and in consideration of the covenants and conditions set forth below are as follows. The right-of-way fees. Archtop recognizes the right-of-way. Use fees help support the work of the village's Department of Public Works does each work to maintain and repair its infrastructure in the village public right-of-way, and is willing to pay a fee to support such activities at 30 cents per linear foot for trenched or above-ground installations. The right-of-way maintenance, to further limit the burden on the village and its Department of Public Works, Archtop will provide a 5-year guarantee on the workmanship of the micro-trenching, and Archtop agrees to be responsible for any maintenance-related issues relative to the micro-trenching during that time period. And whereas to ensure The construction of next generation fiber network in Rhinebeck is economically viable and timely. RTOP is prepared to offer a deep discount of 20% for any telecommunication services purchased by the village. The additional service, understanding that there are village servers that have not yet been served by the incumbent provider and lack critical broadband connectivity, RTOP agrees to build fiber to the following village facilities at no cost to the village. That includes our building here, 76 East Market Street, our police building, 14 Center Street, Town Hall, 80 East Market Street, and that's important because that's where our servers are, and that's how we have joint communication here. 29 North Park Road, which is the mini park, 56 Astor Drive, which is our water department, 56 Astor Drive is our wastewater department, 76 Lake Dock Road, which is our water department, and 6338 Mill Street, which is Crystal Lake Park. So we recognize that some of these areas are outside of the village boundaries and will be connected at such time that the contractor gets to those areas. All right. So we're entering into this with this independent contractor. Each party under the micro trenching shall be, for all purposes, an independent contractor, and nothing contained here will be deemed to create an association, a partnership, a joint venture, or a relationship of principal interest or agent, or employer-employee between the parties. RTOP shall not be, or denied to be, or act in purpose to act as an employee, agent, or representative of the village for anything. There's a lot more, but I'm going to skip the necessary kind of stuff. But the amendment to the micro-trenching agreement, this micro-trenching agreement may only be amended by written agreement executed by both parties, which expressly amends this micro-trenching agreement. And under New York law, the micro-trenching agreement shall be constructed in accordance with the state of New York, and notwithstanding the operation of any conflict of choice of law, statutes, or decisions, right? And the micro-trenching agreement shall be effected upon execution by both parties and shall continue until such time that either party provides the other with 60 days prior notice. Okay. I think it's important that everybody understands that what we're proposing tonight and what we've discussed in the past is to work with Archtop Fiber, the owner, and our local representative, are here this evening. If we have any questions for them, but I would like to show a little map.
Oh, wow, look at that.
So this map is really the proposed layout for Archtop Fiber here in the village of Rhinebeck, where the orange, by the code, is where we'll be doing micro-trenching, and the blue is where there will be aerial overpass, aerial construction being done. So as you can see, the majority of the village is all going to be micro-trench, except for the areas which are really our state roads coming through, which will be using the pole so that we can branch out. They are constructing a hub. The hub has gone through our building planning and zoning department and has been approved, and the hub is under construction as we speak. It's out on the corner of Crosmore and 308. You can see that hub, which will be servicing our area today. That will be the feeder for everything coming into here. So if you have any questions about whether your house is going to be available for micro-trenching, we have it here on the map and the proposed map. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Archtop micro. I'm going to set this down so it's not going to fall on me. I'd like to make a motion to approve the micro-trenching construction agreement.
Second.
Questions? You agree?
Yeah, I think you may have just answered it. So the highway department was not on the list of properties, but is that because it's going to be the area?
It's outside of the town. It's in the town, not in the village.
Isn't Slate Dock?
Yeah, some of
Slate Dock Road is also in the town and not in the village. And what I said, those areas will be serviced when the provider eventually gets to those areas. Let's just say the town adopts the same thing. Or there may be plans, which maybe Tom or Sean, you could address, that maybe could answer those, but we will get to those as the fiber gets extended to those areas.
I think Vanessa's question, though, is that the highway department isn't actually listed on this list.
It is.
No, it's not.
Did I miss it?
That should be, though.
It should be.
We've
It
already
was on my
discussed
list, yes.
Okay, great. So.
Oh, I'm
as-
sorry,
as
right,
amended.
we need to add the highway
Yeah, that's
department. I'm
okay.
sorry, all right. Yes, I will add the highway department.
So if we approve this, the village would be done first, and which would probably be the way they'd want to do it anyway, I
So,
imagine.
in talking with these guys, given that we're now into winter, I don't expect anything to happen until, I would say, March.
No, but sequentially, if the town hasn't approved it, you would do the village first, and then the other sites would be, you would need town approval to do the town sites, is what I'm asking. And that would be the way you'd want to do it anyway.
Yes, I mean, technically, the approvals to go on the aerial poles are a state authority, it's a certificate of public conveyance and need. So we wouldn't need town approval, but for micro trenching specifically, obviously on town roads, we would need their approval, and we're seeking that there. Our plans are ubiquitous. It's a right around a 3,000 mile network from the Albany suburbs all the way down to roughly Poughkeepsie on this side, and all the way down from, to sort of southern Kingston and Esopus there, and then off across to the Delaware River. So it's a large build. This just happens to be a place where we're getting started because I live less than a mile up the road and he's a lifelong resident. And there's a lot of love for Rhinebeck in our company, and our corporate office is the furthest any employee is away from here is 11 minutes across the river. So we're getting started here.
Logistically, it doesn't matter if you're starting in a more condensed place or not. That's immaterial.
I think it's material to us in that you fish where the fish are, so you build denser areas first and less dense areas as you go out. Also, where we place the hub site is very material to where we get started, because the transport ring that provides the internet drains to the greater internet at large, we build every 20 kilometers or so, we will build this hub site. We're building one here in Rhinebeck, and from there you radiate out in these 20-kilometer loops. So that's just sort of naturally how it is built, and we chose Rhinebeck for all of the lovely reasons. Yes.
Thanks.
They love us.
But that's even better.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to clarify when you said the 20% discount for purchases by the village, that means by the village government?
Yes.
Not
Not residents.
residents?
Right, that's municipal services.
The pricing is on our website. It's roughly 10 times the speed of your current internet service for roughly about half the price.
When do you start?
I mean, I think this is amazing, and I think everybody who lives in the village is going to be super thrilled with this, especially those who work from home. But I just think it's so important for our police department to have this, because it's the same speed up as it is down. And the police department at the moment has a terrible time uploading its videos and everything to the main server, so.
Takes us hours to upload
Yeah,
data.
so this is really gonna help the police department out in a really fundamental way, so, I'm really grateful for that, thank you.
Thank you very much. We actually did that in the police department. In fact, we had a meeting earlier with the town of Ulster, and they are having the exact same problem. They're trying to do it at night, they're coming in at night, and it's basically the coaxial service that they have just doesn't work for the necessary path. And we are truly binary, multi-gig, up and down. So you get the exact same speeds both directions.
Thank you. Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll sign the agreement.
So Martina could just add the highway department?
Yeah, now I got the file, I'll do that. I have a note to do.
Start the treasures.
Slate dot, or not late dot, or.
It is Slate.
Slate dot grid. It is written as Slate.
Right, okay. Okay, next, tap, Rick,
Okay.
tap support.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good evening, guys.
Keep your map here, is that okay?
So Vanessa and I have been working with the engineering firm of GPI to ready the village's grant submission to receive a grant to do Safe Routes to School. GPI has submitted actually a preliminary grant to get feedback from. The feedback actually came in like an hour ago.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Breaking news.
And the final submission
All
was.
sorts of things today.
Exactly. As it did. We will do the final submission to in early January. So what I've got in front of me, what you've got in front of you, is a resolution in support of funding for the grant, which is basically the village saying we are willing to go ahead and do this. We have had a conversation with Karen. We're all a little white-knuckled, but this is something we feel needs to be done. One of the questions that was on the table was how much should we say that we're going to be on the hook for? The GPI calculated us out at about $342,000, but it was with
For our share?
Right,
our
it's
share.
an 80-20
Okay.
split.
80-20 split.
It's an 80-20 reimbursable grant, so you need to spend the money to get the money as well.
Right.
Sorry, wait, hold on.
But you don't get it all back.
Okay, so an 80-20 with $382,000 is the 20.
342.
Is our 20.
342 is our 20, so that means that we're on the hook for,
1.7.
okay, so we have to outlay 1.7 and then we
And it will
get it
it'll be paid back,
reimbursed
correct.
minus 342.
You'll get 80% reimbursed.
Right.
Okay.
So actually, the problem though is that they put a contingency number into their budget which both Vanessa and I feel is too low. It just didn't jive with, it seemed like lived experience. So they put it at about 12%. We think it should be at least 20.
Oh, God, yeah.
And in talking to Brandy and our other engineers, they agree. So we're trying to work out what the final grant number would look like,
Okay.
but we have to get this resolution passed. So I'd like to amend the resolution so that the village cash matching share is up to, but will not exceed $400,000, which is the number that we talked
And you
about.
just say all of that again.
Okay, which all of that?
That-
We're going to amend the village cash matching share to be
Cash matching.
cash matching share. To
Cash.
Cash.
It's this first sentence under now therefore let it be resolved.
To what?
to $400,000.
To no more than four.
No more than $400,000. And that basically gives us enough headspace when we settle out to the final number to get a final number on that. As part of, I just want to say, as we think about this, with the help of Roger Kwan and Merritt Ferber, we put out a survey to folks to ask them how do they think about this and what kind of support do we have for Safe Routes to School. So amazingly, we had about a 2-week window, and we received 523 residents responded, which is really a terrific number. And of that number, that actually represents 420 students going to school and 417 students leaving. I don't know why 3 stayed in school. And of that group, 161, approximately 161 take the bus to school, 144 leave school, 153 are driven to school, 132 are picked up, 94 walk in the morning, and then again, as we talked about before, 130 walk in the afternoon, which reflects the dismissal. And then there are also 12 who just drive themselves. So what the survey found was that there really was 2 things. That there were definite concerns within the village, that over half the people felt like they did have deep concerns about their children, the safety of their children walking to school. I asked a question. People are very much in favor of sidewalks, and they said if they would have them, they would use them. I did include a question in this to say, if sidewalks are installed, the maintenance and the upkeep will become a burden to your neighbors and to other people. How do you feel about that? And still 80% of the people said that they were comfortable with that. So this survey is going to be incorporated into.
Did anybody who live on the road answer that question?
We don't have.
We don't.
know.
We don't have.
Yes, I'm very comfortable with my neighbors bearing the cost of this, no problem.
Exactly. But it is a form that people should know that it's not. This is how it gets.
Yeah.
How it gets done.
Yeah.
So basically, this survey will be incorporated into our package of public support that's going to the TAP grant. Because one of the things that the state wants to see, and the states and the feds want to see, is that you communicate it's really beyond the project. And so I can say that with this information and the other letters of support that we are gathering, that we have a lot of momentum to get this thing done. So it would be a major positive for the village. We are a little white knuckle on the money, but we've talked about it. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the resolution as amended.
I'll second that. When are we gonna find out when this $400,000 is gonna have to be spent? So when are we gonna find out if we get it?
Yes.
We won't find out we get it until the spring of '24 at the earliest.
Okay, so this would be an
And-
impact to next year's budget.
So where we stand in the process right now is we only have a notional design. In other words, the
Right, just like enough to get the grant.
enough to get the grant. So
Right.
24 is going to be spent doing the design, public hearings. We're not looking to break ground until 25 at the very earliest.
Okay,
And from what we've heard, if we do run into right-of-way issues, I could add another year to it beyond that.
right,
So-
because one of the problems that we've identified as part of the comp plan process with the sidewalk district is like, how do you take over people's private land to build sidewalks on it without their permission, right?
Good.
Um,
Right,
So,
the good news was their
yeah.
preliminary survey showed that we have right-of-way over the route, this is part of
over this particular route?
yeah, this is
Okay.
part of the services that they offer.
Okay,
And the way this, and again, just to reiterate, the way this process is set up is we have outlaid no money whatsoever. The GPI is preparing the grant, submitting the grant, and only upon the awarding and acceptance of the grant do they begin to get paid for their work.
and do they get paid out of the grant?
Correct.
Okay.
That is built into the grant funding.
Okay,
And that is basically a percentage that's governed within the granting process. And just to take a way big step back, that's because New York State has approved various engineering firms that are able to enter into these kinds of grants. We run into, usually we have to put out an engineering draft, and then we put out a construction grant. In this case, they allow you to bundle it all together.
well, that's nice.
So hypothetically, we could start expending money in 2024, given
On
that.
design.
But
Right.
On
if we get the
design.
grant,
On
on
design.
design and
Correct.
work, we can start spending money. And if we get the grant, we can start spending that money first. We don't have to spend our 400,000 first,
No,
correct?
I think we spend our money first.
No, we
I
have
want to
to,
make that very clear to everybody.
we have to,
I know the answer, but,
Right.
we have to pay and then be
Right.
reimbursed.
yeah, but no, the 400,000
Right.
also comes out on top.
So we only start getting reimbursed after
After
we've
the
spent the
20%.
20%.
Yes.
But where, you know, I'm interrupting, where is the grant writers, where is that, what percentage of that is, and what is that money reflected in this resolution anywhere? Am I missing something?
What, the part of the GPI fee?
Yeah,
Part of the total.
It's part of the
that's
total.
part of,
It's
that's
all,
part of
it's
the
all,
total.
it's all.
They don't break that out.
It's all, I do have a breakout.
Okay.
If you want to see.
At
But that
some-
also
yeah.
is controlled by the legislation. They get a cut of the construction
Yeah,
costs.
I
So it's
understand.
it's
Yeah,
linked to that.
yeah.
And I would also like to kind of amend what Rick said about the right-of-way, that we have right-of-way. We have right-of-way only if we modify some of the roads that give us the footage to be able to get the right-of-way. We don't have right-of-way on all of the roads that are being proposed.
So we'd have to widen the roads, or we'd have to
Narrow the road.
narrow the roads so that we can then capture that width
Exactly.
into
Road
sidewalk.
diet.
A
Yes.
road diet, well, you know,
Diet.
everybody needs a road diet.
Yeah. So
Um,
right now, the way the plan is structured, we need a minimum of like, let's call it 22 feet for fire emergency apparatus to be able to work, right? We also, but their design is based on 24 feet, right? So we're gonna go in with a 24-foot design and then be able to capture what we have from the side of that.
Right. What Gary's referring to is that it's two 12-foot lanes, basically off the center. So it's
Right,
12
which are
feet.
hugely wide lanes and actually encourage speeding.
But that's what we need for our ladder truck to deploy all of its landing legs and everything else to be able to work.
We don't need 24
We need 20.
feet. Yeah,
We
we
need
need
20.
20, right.
21.
So we need 10 foot, 10 and a half foot lanes. We don't need 12-foot lanes.
Gotta walk around the truck too, you remember?
No, I
So-
know, but
so-
like, I'm also thinking that like Interstate 87 has 10-foot lanes, right? Like, no, they're not.
So,
Yeah,
so,
so
so,
like-
so
yeah.
Lydia, yeah. So, this is actually a discussion I had with the engineer.
Great.
So, we said, and I discussed it with Gary and Fire, because they do need, if it's 20 feet for the extension on the ladder truck to go out, make it 20, make it 22 to, you know, you can't necessarily put the truck in the middle. So I spoke to the engineers and I said, look, we could go 11 feet on these. And they said, when we're doing the bidding and we're doing the construction project, we're gonna do it at 12. If we need to modify it, we'll modify it, but 12 is the standard. So that's what we're doing. But I agree, I would be happy to see a narrower lane.
Right. Okay. And then how much is our right of way outside of the roads? It depends on the road.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
We don't have the right of way. We will take the road, which is the existing
Which is
used
right of way,
Right.
right,
and use that space.
We have enormously, overly wide roads.
Yes.
right. That we know, right.
So we
Okay,
think we can do this, like South Parsonage is the most critical one.
yeah.
So we think we can do it on South Parsonage, using Vanessa's term of road diet.
I mean, right, everyone's basically already using that sort of access as like a bike path / sidewalk component.
Well, we put fog lights in to be able to help manage it.
Yeah, yeah, okay. All right,
Right. We'll see. And
So-
as I said, it's a notional plan. We get what we pay for. So right now it's a notional plan and we won't get a full build-out design plan until and if the grant is awarded.
okay. If we get the grant, do we have to take it?
No.
Okay. I'm just thinking about the $400,000. I'm not thinking like,
Mhm.
I'm,
It's a-
for the record, I'm very much in favor of Safe Walks to School. I'm very much in favor of the federal government helping us pay for it. I'm also deeply concerned about the amount of money that the village is going to be required to spend the next
And it's
couple
a
of
cash
years.
flow.
And I also think that's why it's really important to maybe the first meeting before all the department heads should be the
This-
grants and capital project, because
Yeah.
I know, you may be thinking one grant, oh, it's only 20,000 or whatever. I'm just
Right.
saying that I think we need to come together and just put everyone's and find out what the village is sharing. And I don't want to be using our annual operating budget for those expenses. So
Yeah.
if you get the grant, we'll probably bond that amount.
Do a ban.
Yeah.
Right.
Ban or bond.
Well, because our operating expenses, given everything that's been going on the last 18 months, have just,
Right.
right,
We'll get to that.
we'll get to that.
But we have nothing to lose by trying.
No, absolutely
So,
not,
and
right.
We should, in my
Yeah.
opinion, we should move forward, right, recognizing that we have some hurdles we have to get through, okay?
Yep. Okay.
Just one other comment, I thought the survey results are pretty robust. And I know we did end up using the school district getting in, which seemed to double that number. I'm always just curious how people found out about it, and something, wasn't a question that we had on the survey, I don't think, but it might have been something that we consider, like, how did you find out about this?
Interesting.
Because that way
The
we,
superintendent did email it out, which I think. was
yeah,
great.
it seemed like
Yeah.
it doubled the number once that happened, it seemed to me,
Yeah.
but I didn't know we ended up that high.
Yeah, no, it was
quite frankly.
wonderful. I mean, I think Roger and Meredith deserve credit for helping to get the word out as well. So,
Okay.
Okay, we have a second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good job.
okay, thank you, Kevin. It's a rough over.
Thank you, Vanessa and Rick.
Okay, Rick, you're still up,
Okay,
tree commission member.
let me wake up my computer here one second. All right, tree commission. Open up here.
Hey, Mesh, you might want to stick around another
Okay,
20 minutes if you can.
Okay, yes.
So currently, the tree commission we had actually, first of all, start by saying I want to thank Connie Malone, who's been the secretary to the tree commission for many, many years. And she has done a tremendous job over the years, keeping things organized, keeping us on track, keeping the information flow going. She has decided, for personal reasons, she's doing a lot, many places. It's time for her to step away from the tree commission. So at this time, this will actually create a third vacancy at the tree commission. So I would like a village resolution to advertise for vacancies on the tree commission from now until till the next tree commission meeting, which is the 17th of January.
So this is 3 positions open for the top. She said there's only 1.
She said 3.
They just told me the other day that there's only 1.
There's only 1?
Can we just say that we're accepting applications?
We can say our accepted applications.
Yeah.
Okay. She said we have 9 up to 9, and we have 6.
5, 6, 8,
Um,
10. There's 10.
Well, not everybody's a commission member. I'm not a commission member. Tom's not a commission member.
Oh,
So,
it'd be nice to have the minutes.
yeah. So can I have I'd like to make a motion to open advertisements for members of the tree commission through the next tree commission meeting, which is January 27th. 17th, sorry, 17th.
Second.
Thank you.
So you're accepting applications till that day?
Yeah, till that day. And so basically, if you're interested in the tree commission, we have a really wonderful group that's going right now. The tree commission does a number of things. First of all, folks, if you have a tree that is basically within the village right-of-way along the streets, you need to apply for a permit to either remove it or have it pruned. And this is basically so that we know what's going on. Also, we would like to know if you're putting in a tree as well. There's no requirement, but because street trees are very site dependent, either because they're close to the road or they're underneath a wire or at whatever location, the tree commission is there to advise people about what kinds of trees go in. In addition to those monthly responsibilities, the tree commission organizes two plantings per year, and we plant 15 to 20 trees in the spring, 15 to 20 trees in the fall, and over the years the tree commission has planted well over 400 trees all around the village, again in the rights of way and within the parks. And you've probably seen us around, that's a major event. So that's what the commissioners do. We also do apply for grants and manage some grant monies. It's a very good, wonderful, and caring group. So if you're interested, please contact Martina.
Another important thing, you manage the tree inventory on the database.
Yes, we manage this. We manage, that's true. We have the Village of Rhinebeck, through a grant from the Frost Foundation, was able to obtain software to take an inventory and keep an inventory of our street trees. One of the things that the Tree Commission does is also we have one member who actually maintains and keeps that database up all the time. And that's important for us because when we go for grants and other funding, people ask, do you have a tree inventory? And the answer is yes, we do. And that also gives us a sense for, we've done with Vanessa, greenhouse gas, what the greenhouse gas reductions were. We thought over 20 years it was about this building.
Mm-hmm.
This building every year or over 20 years?
The tree keeper software, the last
Yeah.
I checked, it was over a 20-year period, but fun fact, another Carey Institute scientist told me that another metric to look at is 1.3 tons of CO2 equivalent per acre of forest or tree cover.
Okay, I don't know if we have an acreage. But my recollection was that about the village canopy about sets off this building.
Yeah.
So imagine if we got rid of all that oil, it would set off even more.
Right. So that was it. So,
All right.
so I make a motion to open there we go.
Does it have to be for village residents only?
It is preferred that it be a village
Yes.
resident.
Okay. Second.
This is a commission, so they're limited to village
But
residents.
that's what I said.
Okay, sorry. That's all right.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think you should make a motion to accept Connie's resignation.
Okay, very good. With regret, I'd like to make a motion to accept the resignation of Connie Lund from the Tree Commission, and just add that she's done a terrific job over the years.
Second.
Second.
With regret, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Okay. All right, next. As we do all the time, the fire department gets new members. I'd like to make a motion to appoint the active probationary member to our fire department of Carter Lewis.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So,
With gratitude.
yes. Now, more late-breaking discussion that are occurring. I'd like to give just, would you like to do the Mulberry Street update?
Sure, we, Gary and I had a good chat with our lawyer and Brandy, who seems to be everywhere these days, about the next steps with 6 Mulberry, given the public hearing that happened, or the conversation, public meeting. I know, it wasn't a public hearing, the special meeting that happened, was it last week?
Yes.
Oh my God.
It was last week.
That happened last week. So the next step is to do something very similar to what we did with phase 2, but do it with phase 3, part 3. And the goal for part 3 is to have a draft released to the public with a good amount of time for them to be able to review it in advance of the meeting. And David and Brandy are optimistic that they can do that in time for us to hold another special meeting on the fourth Tuesday of January, which is the 23rd. And obviously, we would want to have that we would want to have that special meeting in the evening. The planning board is not meeting that night, so we could meet at 5 again, or we could meet at 6. It depends a little bit on us. But I would imagine that that meeting will probably take a similar amount of time. And, you know, welcome sort of questions from the public as part of the whole thing. So if that...
We discussed 5, if you want to change the time.
I mean,
Okay.
5 is great, honestly. So I'd like to make a motion to have a special meeting on
January 23rd.
January 23rd at 5 p.m. To discuss part 3 of the seeker process for 6 Mulberry Street.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Mayor.
Okay. That completes the resolution. So going forward, we do have an application to use the Village Hall. I'd like to make a motion to accept the Rhinebeck Democratic Committee to use the Village Hall on Tuesday, December 21st from 6 to 7:30 for their committee meeting. Second.
One second.
Any discussion?
Wait,
What?
Thursday or Tuesday?
What day?
Which day? You said Tuesday, December 21st.
No, but our meetings are going to be on the
Thursdays.
second Tuesday.
The third Thursday.
They're usually Thursday.
They're usually Thursdays.
What?
December 21st is a Thursday.
Oh, whatever the date is. You
Okay,
said the
great.
23rd.
So Thursday, December 21st.
Should we just check the application real quick?
That's
Yeah, that'd be
probably a good idea.
nice.
Hold on.
Oh, I forgot one thing, happy holidays.
Thank you. Thursday, December
What we had
21st.
what we had said we would be holding our our next meeting, the second meeting of the month on the 4th Tuesday.
No.
Sorry.
This is for the Democratic Committee to
Oh.
utilize the Village Hall.
Oh, I'm
space.
sorry, I thought you were back to the last discussion.
No.
No.
Sorry.
This one is for, what's on the application says Thursday the 21st.
Yes,
Yes.
great.
Yeah, we're not talking about the 4th.
Okay, sorry. You threw me off. So this is the application to use the Village Hall, Thursday, December 21st,
We're not having,
from 6 to 7:30.
we're not having a zoning board meeting, so it's fine.
No,
Yeah.
there's no ZBA meeting.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Rick, Hudson River Valley Greenway Grant.
Okay. I'm happy to announce that Village of Rhinebeck received a grant, or received approval of a grant to rehabilitate the hike-bike trail, hike-bike trails that run through the Village of Rhinebeck, the town of Rhinebeck, and the town of Red Hook. Basically, if you see those A, B route signs around every now and then, that was created back in the early 2000s with the help of Winnicke Land Trust. Those signs have deteriorated over time, and it's time for a rehab and to add some additional signage. So we applied, Steve Greenberg and I put together a grant. We applied, we applied to do it, we received word that we have indeed been awarded the grant.
Oh, fantastic.
And additional paperwork is to follow. And just remember, this is a grant that we are basically the lead agency, to borrow a term. We are working with the town and the town of Red Hook.
Rhinebeck,
Town of Rhinebeck, town of Red Hook, who will be contributing matching funds to this grant as we are.
Great.
Yeah, the next step is you have to do the IMA.
We have to do that, we have to do the IMAs, and yeah. And again, that'll get me this afternoon.
That's
Okay, congratulations on getting the grant.
Yeah, well done.
Good one, good job.
The amount?
Yeah.
What's the amount? Do you know the amount?
6,000, what was it?
The
No, we
total-
approved up to spend 6,000.
Yeah, we approved it. The total grant amount is about $36,000. I will give you the final number.
Great. Thank you.
Vanessa?
We got to our goal of 5 village residents purchasing an electric or plug-in hybrid vehicle.
Yay!
So yay, we got word that we will be getting a $5,000 grant. And we are still encouraging people to go and bite the bullet and make that purchase by the end of the year. Because if we can get, I think if we can get 15 more, then we would get another $7,500 in addition. So let's go for broke.
Amazing. Thank you, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Thank you, good job. All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from 11/14/23.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from November 28/23.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 I'm an abstention.
Thank you.
Abstained?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from December 5th, 23.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So done. All right, committee reports.
Okay.
You have 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay. The Tree Commission did receive one application from the 64 East Market Street Association to prune some hazardous branches. The commission recommends that the board approve the pruning of those branches. So may I have a motion to accept the Tree Commission's suggestion for 64 East Market Street Associates?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Done?
Is it?
Oh,
Climate Smart.
Also, some more good news. Carrie and I were honored at a gathering in Newburgh last week, where the Village of Rhinebeck actually received 2 awards for the region, recognizing the work of the Hudson 7, protecting our drinking water, with the Bridge Builder Award. And then we got a second award called the Climate Stalwart Award, for climate action over an extended period of time. So it was really nice to be recognized, and we were in really great company with so many other towns and villages across the Hudson Valley that are all doing really amazing work to take action against climate change. So
just to clarify, 33 awards were passed out that night.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So
It was great.
we were all in great company with a lot of municipalities.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Lydia, comprehensive plan.
They are deep in reviews of a draft and working on it. They'll be meeting on Thursday for a very abbreviated meeting to approve a letter of support for the TAP grant and to just catch up with each other. So their next meeting after that will be once again on the second Thursday of the month in January. And there should be more information coming out then.
Very good.
But they are on track to have the whole process become public and go through its whole process, ideally with us being able to take a vote on it by May or June. So really quite remarkable work, and I'd like to thank all of them.
I'd like to thank you for driving us.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, as always, we like to recognize the people who work for the Village of Rhinebeck, who their dedicated service. So I'd like to, this evening, recognize Officer in Charge, Sergeant Peter Dunn, for his 22 years of service for the Village of Rhinebeck. Thank you, Sergeant.
Especially given what he pulled off with Sinterklaas, I think. Yes.
I'd also like to recognize our Deputy Clerk, Chrissy Deneau, who serves double duty in terms of doing a lot of our billing and the invoices that we all sign and keeping that all organized. You know, it's a thankless job, and I'd like to thank Chrissy Deneau for her 14 years of service for the Village of Rhinebeck. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn our last meeting of the year at
7:54.
Not bad.
Very good. I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have a great holiday.